أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على محمد وآله. Assalamu alaikum, my dear sisters and brothers. I continue with my talk about the signs, and last time we talked about the Yamani and the importance of us recognizing him and the importance of us following his leadership before the advance of the Imam al-Mahdi Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajah. And today we'll continue on with the signs, discussing the Sufyani, the advance of the Sufyani, which will be on the same day as the advance of the Yamani and the Khurasani. Towards the end of time, there's many traditions mention a character by the name of Sufyani that will appear in Al-Sham, which is modern day Syria. His aim, according to our Shia scholars, is basically, if you sum it all up, is basically to cause havoc and destruction. His appearance is one of the 5 major signs, Mahtumat al-Khumsa, which is one of the 5 major signs that has to happen before the advance of the Mahdi Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajah. And it's linked to another major sign, which is one of the other 5 signs, which is the Khasf al-Bayda. So the advance of the Sufyani and the Khasf al-Bayda are 2 signs that are linked to one another. And inshallah we can go through these 2 signs today if there's time, God willing. Now there are many questions and beliefs that we have to consider before we talk about the Sufyani, and which are associated with the Sufyani. One is the Sufyani an individual or a concept? Is that his name? Or is it a title? Is it a concept? Is the Sufyani a group of people or one person? When discussing the Sufyani, often we also hear about the Dajjal al-A'war, which some people think it still exists. I don't want to talk about, I'm not going to discuss that, who it is or anything, because I don't know. So don't ask me about it later, about who the Dajjal is. Are they in fact separate entities? Are the Dajjal and the Sufyani one and the same? These are questions that arise when you research about the Sufyani. Or is the Dajjal a person or a concept, and are they separate? And how can we recognize the Sufyani? And does he have are there specific events and things about him that help us recognize him and to be wary of him? Now the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam in various narrations has stated that, and this is a hadith sharif thabit as stated by our Shia scholars, سيكون بعدي خلفاء ومن بعد الخلفاء أمراء ومن بعد الأمراء ملوك جبابرة ثم يخرج رجل من أهل بيتي. Now what does that mean? He says, there will be Khalifs after me. And after Khalifs, Emirs will come. And after Emir, tyrant kings. Then after these tyrant kings, the Mahdi from my household will rise. Now, why is this hadith important? Because we learn a few things from this repeated hadith. The Prophet was advising through foresight, because the Prophet ﷺ has ilm al-ghayb, as do all the imams. So they have the ability of foresight. They have the link with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that allows them to have this ghayb, this foresight about what will happen after him. So he was kind of giving us signs that there will be Khalifs, and these are not discussed in a positive term. There will be Khalifs, kings, emirs, and there will be tyrant kings. So he's warning people about what will happen after him. So those who recognize the truth can stay away or be observant of these tyrant kings and emirs. In regard to this hadith, another tradition from Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, who said, ثم يقع التبادر واختلافات بين الأمراء العرب والعجم. So they said there will be discussions between the leaders of the Arabs and the Ajam, which is Persians or Iranians. فلا يزالون يختلفون إلى أن يصير الأمر إلى رجل من ولد أبي سفيان. So there will be So there'll be arguments, discussions, and differences between the Arabs and the Persians, to the extent that will rise the leadership from Abi Sufyan. So the Arab caliphs and tyrant kings will fight the Ajam, which is modern day Iran, using what? So what kind of fights are these? These are weapons. There'll be differences and arguments using weapons, wealth, and slanders. So bil kalam, wal mal, wal silah. So there'll be sanctions onto the Persians by the Arabs, as there was in previous and pre-Islamic Arabia towards the Prophet ﷺ, and they will fight using slander, propaganda, and weapons also. So out of the tyrants, the Sufyani is born. His leadership will rise out of this difference and out of this ugliness. And we have description of who is he, where he will emerge, and what he will do from the Prophet ﷺ. So we have this tradition. It says, a man will rise named al-Sufyani from the depth of Damascus, which is Syria. He will kill even the children still in their mother's wombs, and kill the boys. Any Egyptians and Moroccans who oppose to giving an oath and allegiance are killed, so as to prevent any uprising. Now why did the Prophet ﷺ mention Egyptians and Moroccans? Because a lot of the hadith mention that the Masriyun wal Maghribiyun, they will become supporters of the Sufyani, but the few that don't, they will be killed by the Sufyani because they refuse to give bay'ah to him. They don't accept his ruling or the way he propagates. In Bihar al-Anwar, the quote from the Prophet again. In fact, the Sufyani is from Bani Umayyah. The Sufyani is from Bani Umayyah. His descendants are those who his forefathers, not descendants. His forefathers are those who murdered Imam al-Hussein. And his name is Uthman bin Abasa. His family resides in a place, a dry valley, area called Ramli, east of Palestine and west of Jordan. So this is a description, this is a hadith we get from the Prophet regarding the name of the Sufyani and where his family will reside. So how is it that the Sufyani rises to power? We know the Sufyani as an evil guy, like a bad man. If we compare him to Saddam, now Saddam appears to be a kind person compared to the Sufyani. No. Now, how is it that the Sufyani will rise to power? How will people allow this to happen? Regarding the status of the world before the rise of the Mahdi, Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajah, which is months after the rises of Sufyani and the Yamani. Now, we have lots of various narrations that discuss the state of the world. I talked about injustice and corruption and tyranny and oppression, but what am I specifically talking about? It says, when the righteous will be destroyed, and the vile will take up leadership, and values will become false, and people will incline to wealth and power. So people will sell their religion, will put it aside for wealth and power. And there are other hadiths that say that people will sell their religion as a profit, as a means of profit. I remember a few years ago I bought Safihat al-Sajjadiyah of the net, and I paid $160 for it. Now, can you imagine if someone who wants this book but isn't wealthy enough to buy this book, Islamically speaking, Islamic knowledge and the desire to gain Islam, it should be available to everyone. It shouldn't be limited by finances, wealth, or your status, or your language. It should be available to everyone to experience. And it continues, when breaking off relations and cruelty will be common, and the mean meaning mean people, will be prominent. The unlawful will be considered legal. Promises will be broken. No one will care for one another. Now, what is this talking about? The unlawful will be considered legal. Sometimes you consider things that are haram, like this is less haram than that. It's okay if I'll do it. It'd be forgiven quicker than if I do the big ones, you know? So you're like, it's okay, you know? I can do these, you know, you kind of make up your own Islam, you know? We all do it a lot of times because, you know, we want to make our own lives easier, you know? And then they say, it's okay, it's just a little bit of ghibah. It's just a little bit of naming. You know, I'll tell that person I did their ghibah behind their back and they'll forgive me. It's fine. You know, it's not haram. In fact, now, if this is the state of the world before the advent of the Mahdi, now it should be scarier than the advent of the Sufyani. Now the Sufyani is nothing, it's not scary. You know, the Sufyani is going to kill you, but the akhlaq of the society, when it dies, that is scarier than any attack from the Sufyani. Because when we let our Islamic values, which is human values, when we let them die, when we let them decrease when we decrease their value and their meaning by saying that this is less haram than the other, you know, it's an insult to the Prophet, and it's an insult to us as followers of Islam. And you know, we always say that, you know, we should follow Islam to its truest forms, and we often relate Islam to praying the Salat al-Layl, and we ignore the other part of Islam, which says be kind to one another. So it says that kindness to your sisters, your brothers, you know, Sulat al-Rahmah, you know, that will decrease before the time of the Mahdi, you know. My parents are very good at, you know, following the Sulat al-Rahmah, you know. I'm lucky that I was being raised by people who say even if you don't like someone, call them. Don't stay angry at someone more than 3 nights. And Imam Ali says, for 3 nights, don't let تقطع الكلام if you're angry at someone. You know, visit them, and we shouldn't let these decrease. And by not letting this decrease, we're not delaying the return of the Mahdi. No, in fact, we're becoming followers of the Mahdi. Sometimes people say, it's okay, let the world be cruel. The crueler it gets, the faster the Mahdi will come. No, you know, let them stay cruel. Let us work about becoming the people of the Mahdi. So we don't fight him when he returns, because there will be people of the Shia that will oppose the Mahdi, because they fear the haqq, that the haqq will not benefit them, which is silly, because the haqq that the Mahdi brings will benefit everyone. Now continuing on from the narration from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. يخرج رجل من أهل بيتي في الحرم فيبلغ ذلك السفياني فيبعث إليهم جند من جنده. A man will rise from my Ahl Bayt in the sanctuary, Haram. فيسير حتى إذا جاء بيداء من الأرض خسف بهم. And the roads, so what will happen is the Sufyani will hear news that the Mahdi is coming, that the Mahdi is advancing. Came, that he showed that the Mahdi appeared in Makkah. So he sends an army of 300,000, and the road leads them to Al-Bayda, and the earth collapses beneath their feet in Al-Bayda, which is a mantaqa outside Medina, just outside Masjid al-Shajara. There are so many narrations and accounts from the Prophet and our Imams alayhim salam that talk about the Sufyani. This is what we can sum up. The Sufyani will first appear in Damascus, Umuq Damascus. This is what the hadith say, will appear in Umuq Damascus, in Syria. He will make his way to Iraq with a large army. He sends his army of thousands to Kufa. This is directly before the appearance of the Mahdi. So he sends an army to Kufa to take over Kufa and kill the Shia in Kufa. And this will happen before the advance of the Mahdi. The events in Najaf are stated as such. Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam in Kitab al-Irshad says, the kingdom of these men will not disappear until they slaughter people in Kufa on Friday. It is as if I was looking at heads falling between the gates of al-Fil, Bab al-Fil, and the place of the soap sellers. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says that 4,000 people alone will die at the gates of Bab al-Fil and the soap sellers. And the safest place to be during the advance of the Sufyani towards Kufa or in Kufa is the street of the Ansar. That's the safest place to be in Najaf. Many will ask, how is it possible that Masjid al-Kufa and Najaf will be taken over by the army of Sufyani? How is it possible? You know, we Shia, we're very proud of our maraqid, you know. People say in Syria, they're like, no, we won't let the place where Zainab alayhi salam, we won't let that be taken over again and destroyed. You know, in Samara, we say we won't let that be destroyed again. You know, we're very proud of our places of worship and where our imams are buried. So how is it possible that the Sufyani can come take over Kufa and kill the people? Some narrations, sorry, sound like a teenage voice. Some narrations mention that the men of Najaf will be occupied fighting the Sufyani elsewhere in Iraq. So the leaders of Najaf, or the army, the people protecting Najaf, they'll be occupied elsewhere. And the people who are left in charge, who are left to look after Najaf, who are there to guard it, they will be distracted. They'll be distracted for some reason they'll be distracted, and the Sufyani will take that chance and charge into Najaf and kill the people there. The various hadith mention that the Iranians will play a strong military role in fighting the Sufyani. We hear a lot about the taharrukat al-Iraniyin. The Sufyani, so they have a strong role. The Iranians will have or the Ajam will have a strong role in fighting the Sufyani in Syria and in Iraq. Inshallah, we can discuss this in the future. We can get to it in more detail. I don't want to just throw that at you and say that's it. You're going to have more questions. So, inshallah, in the future, we can discuss this in more detail. The traditions gathered in the books compiled by our Shia scholars say that before the advent of the Imam Mahdi alayhi salam, there will be heavy focus on Iraq. Now, what does that mean? For a long time, people in Iraq will suffer, will live in fear. So they'll live in fear, and they'll experience lots of earthquakes and war. So they'll always be in a constant state of fear. When we think of Imam Mahdi alayhi salam, we think Mecca, Medina. But in fact, after the return, the capital of the world will be Kufa. That's where he will establish his government from Masjid al-Kufa, which has such a heavy and symbolic meaning to it. And you know, Imam Ali alayhi salam is our guide when we show examples of fairness and justice, and you know, following Islam to its proper way that the Prophet taught it. You know, we always talk about Imam Ali alayhi salam and how fair and just his government was, which is the government of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
But Imam Ali alayhi salam was murdered before the Muslim Ummah can experience and benefit fully from his government, which is fair and just, which is haqq, you know. And the fact that the Mahdi will govern from Kufa, it has such a heavy symbol, which is kind of telling us that, you know, all the Imams after Imam Ali alayhi salam, what they weren't given the chance to do, you know, the government that they couldn't create because of the Jababara and the Kuffar and the Munafiqeen and the people who opposed Islam but pretended to follow it. Now, they didn't allow all the Imams after Imam Ali to fully govern the way Islam should be governed. And the fact that Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam, when he governs from Kufa, it means that I am here to finish what they weren't given a chance to start. And it's a government of haqq, truth, equity and justice. And haqq is such a beautiful topic to discuss when we discuss haqq in relation to the Mahdi. And Allah willing, we can discuss the meaning of haqq, the true meaning of haqq, and how we can express haqq in our daily lives and how it is taught in Islam. Inshallah, we can discuss this later in relation to the Mahdi, because it's such a beautiful topic. Haqq is not just truth. And truth doesn't just mean I'm not lying. It has such a deeper meaning to it, which is so beautiful. Inshallah, we can get a chance to discuss that. Now, getting back to the Sufyani, among the major activities that will occur is that there will come news that the Mahdi has appeared. Now, I already discussed this before. Now, I'm going to discuss it in detail. That there'll come news that the Mahdi Ajjalallahu Ta'ala has appeared in Mecca. So the Sufyani sends an army to meet the Imam with the intention of killing him, which leads to another major sign, which is خسف البيداء, a tradition from the Prophet ﷺ. سيكون في آخر الزمان خسف وقذف ومسح. So at the end of time, before the advent of the Mahdi, there will be lots of sinkholes, and then there'll be three major خسوف, which is خسف بجزيرة العرب, وهي آخر الخسف لأنه الخسف بالجيش السفياني, which is also referred to as جيش البيداء. So what will happen is the Sufyani will hear that the Mahdi has come. They'll send 300,000 men to meet the Mahdi and kill him. And at noon, at midday, the sun will remain still. And when it reaches Al-Bayda, which is outside Medina, just outside Masjid al-Shajra, it's a sandy place, and it's lots of ahadith, right? That the earth will sink on itself, and all the 300,000 but 2 will die. Like the earth will eat them up, except for 2. Now, subhanAllah, like these things are, and the Sufyani knows that there's books about him. When he emerges, he already knows who he is. He knows that the book. He knows what will happen to him. He knows that if he sends 300,000 people to meet the Mahdi, they'll die. But the shaitan tricks him. There's so much shaitan in him. They trick him, say, "Oh no, you can kill the Mahdi." And why does he want to kill the Mahdi? Because the Mahdi is haqq, the Mahdi is truth, the Mahdi is fair, and evil people are scared of anything that's fair. And we'll leave it here at the moment, because if I start another topic regarding the signs, I'm going to need another 20 minutes. Inshallah, you are satisfied with my research on the Sufyani. If you want more information, or if you want further detail, just contact the brother or brother Talib or sister Ala. Or if you want books to read and do further research, not just on the Sufyan, on the Mahdi himself, I can give you some books or tell you where to find them. Most of my research comes from Mahdiyun al-Mahdi by Ali al-Qurani and Asr al-Zuhur. I think this comes in Arabic as well. I only have the Persian version. It comes in Arabic. Okay. Yeah, probably does come in Arabic first before the Persian version. So if there's another book called Yom al-Khalas. If you want further research, because it's nice to do your own research and to gain your own knowledge. Because sometimes we're hungry for research, but we don't know where to start, and it's scary to do your own research on your own. Like, am I reading the right books? Are these respected scholars? All that stuff. Are these hadith Shia or are they Sunni? You don't know where to start. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Wassalatu wassalam ala nabiyyina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.